Hi, you're here sewing with Cody. And this is, I want to say, part 4 of the Bernina Stitch Designer videos. Remember, Stitch Designer is on the Bernina 790 and 880 and the plus versions of those machines. So this allows you to create stitches from scratch or to alter pre-existing stitches. So in this video, we're going to kind of do something similar like we've done in other videos, just in a slightly different way. So what we're going to do is we are going to take a pretty elaborate design and make it simpler, because we may take out a portion of the design that we just don't want to make the design better fit what we want it to be for our particular project. So some of these designs that we're working with are multiple designs. They're pre-programmed decorative stitches, but they contain multiple factors that we're taking out all of that and leaving just something that's more simple. So something we're going to do is so the machine has a whole folder with different countries, and they have a corresponding icon or landmark with them in the stitches. But like here we have Africa with the African elephant, and we want the word Africa to go away, and we want just the elephant. Another thing we're going to be working with is here. We've got the car with the little camper, and we just want the car, or we may just want the camper. So we're going to eliminate those things. Something else that we're going to do, which is really neat, is we're going to take a decorative stitch on some of these novelty stitches, and we're going to change the direction and angle in which they stitch using the sideways motion function. So let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to work with is Africa with the African elephant. So we'll come to our decorative stitches, and those are here in the 1500 folder. So let's go to Africa, but you can see there's Aussie, there's Australia, there's New Zealand, London, kitchen, Swiss, and the list just goes on, and there are iconic landmarks like the Great Pyramids of Egypt, in Egypt, the Golden Gate Bridge, and what we're going to work with is the African elephant. So we'll come to Africa with the African elephant. You can see the stitch here. So let's go to Stitch Designer. This function is very easy to work with. So here we can barely see any of the stitch. So we can zoom out just to get a better idea of what we're working with. Go to our little hand, and we kind of scroll through so you can see the African elephant, and you can see Africa. So what we're going to do, we're going to work it. It's going to be very easy. We're going to start from where the point is, which is needle penetration 178, and we're going to select the entire word Africa and essentially just delete it. So we're going to start here, and remember, we can come to this icon. You have the option to select the entire design. You have the option to select multiple needle penetrations or a portion of the design at a time, or one point at a time. So we're going to select this icon here, and we're just going to scroll up. You can hold down the scroll button and it'll start scrolling much quicker, because we know we need to select the majority of the design, the entire stitch. So there we go. So there you can see we have Africa selected. But one thing I do notice is we went up one stitch further than I wanted to, and we're getting closer to the elephant. Let's stop it right at the base of the A. So we have a little bit of a baseline, so when our elephants connect, there's more spaced apart. So we've got that selected. Let's hit the trash can, and ta-da! There's your elephants. So you can see here, we have just an elephant with a nice baseline. So that's something you want to make sure you have in your designs when you create them or when you alter them, especially ones that are based on the bottom. So we want to make sure we have enough stitching in front of it and behind it, so when they connect like this, they are nicely spaced out. Because what can happen, as you see when you start playing with them, if we deleted this, let's say if we deleted that and this, now so we have no baseline behind the elephant. So we have one in the front, but it's not enough to space out our elephants. So if anything, it looks like kind of like they're holding on to each other's tail, even though they typically do that with their trunk. But right here, they're just overlapping too much. So we can just undo and keep us a nice baseline, a separating line. You can always add that, but it's nice when it's already there, you don't have to add anything. And that's as simple as that. So we hit the check mark. You see, there are your beautiful elephants. And you can see exactly how they'll stitch out. Absolutely beautiful. So now you can come to your heart, go to your folder, and you can save your designs. And remember, we're saving them in folder 4. So now the other one that I wanted to show you was same exact concept. It's just always nice to see repetitions and see other things you can work with. So let's go and select a new design. So we'll go to our decorative stitches. We're going to go to our novelty folder, which is a 900 folder. Let's go and select the little car pulling the camper. But just say if you're stitching a little John and you want to do a cute little decorative stitch of just cars. Well, we don't have a design that's just a car. We have a design with a car and a camper. So we'll select a design on this machine. It was stitch 913. Go to our stitch designer. And let's go and delete that entire camper. So what we can do, remember, we can select different points on the design and delete those specific points. We can select multiple points, but it's easy to scroll through. But one thing we can do is we can select a certain point that we want to start working from. So I like to start with point number 1. So I think you can actually just click here and you can type in, okay, I want to go straight to point 1. It'll take us directly to the very beginning because we know we want to delete that camper. So we were able to go and type a specific number by clicking the number here. And you can type whatever number you want, hit the check mark, it'll take your little cursor, your little white circle to that specific dot. So now let's go and, so right now you can see it's only allowing us to select one point at a time. Let's go here and then select multiple points. So now now you notice that little white circle has a little blue line around it. So now we can go and select the entire camper. And we just want to select the camper and leave kind of like that little trailer hitch for now. So let's hit delete. So now the entire camper is gone. However, because the way it was designed, you can see it looks a little funny. Because we've got this little piece here that kind of jets down to the ground and jets back over. And then it has to jump back up to connect here. So what you can do is let's come to this point, which we can't. We have to come here. And it's just the last point. And you can delete one point at a time until you get the look you want. So perfect. So now you have just car after car after car. But if you wanted the space between the cars a little greater, let's zoom in. And let's tear our little hand so we can scroll down. So what you can do is you have multiple options. You can either extend this little tail back here so it's a little longer, or you can create one in the front. So this is something we haven't done yet. So now we're going to draw our own stitches. So I can come to the little pencil here, and I can, because we're at the very last point, point 52, our next point is going to be point 53. So you can draw a little line, or just a dot, just right in front of it. And what it did, it created a whole new point. You are putting dots, and it's connecting those dots. And that's all it did. So now the space between the cars is a little greater, just by adding a little bit, another stitch or another needle penetration. And that's a whole new design. And that will give you that design you see here. Pretty cool. So we can just X out of this, or you can go and save it. But let's select one more design. Let's go select the little bicycle. So this is something that's different. So before we go to Stitch Designer, we want to alter this stitch. So on Stitch Designer, I'm sure you may have noticed that there's no rotation. And I haven't showed it to you because you can't really rotate your design in Stitch Designer. You can change the start-stop point, you could do mirror image, but you can't rotate it. So if you want to rotate a design, you have to do that before you go into Stitch Designer. So to do that, you can come to a little eye, and we're going to go right here. This is our multi-directional stitching. So we can have this bicycle stitch at any angle, and the feed dogs are capable of moving the fabric left to right, up and down, 720 different degrees. So let's come here to our multi-directional function, and let's just go to 135 degrees. And you can see the bicycle is now going downhill. So now let's go to our Stitch Designer, because that's the angle that I want. I'm going to go to Stitch Designer. You can see our bicycle, and you can see here how it's going to stitch out. That's not going to work out for us, because it's going to stitch down, and then it's going to have to jump back over to come back to connect the next bicycle. So let's zoom out. So since we brought a design in that was already multi-directional, that was already larger than 9mm, it removed that 9mm restriction from the very beginning. So we won't have to worry about removing that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to need to select the entire design. Let's go and select that entire design. Let's make a copy of it. So now I've got two of them. This stays the same because we just made an exact replica of this. But now what we need to do is we need to mirror image it. And so it's getting there, kind of what we want. But what we need to do is we need to move it over. So you can use our multi-directional knob over here, our stitch width, our top knob, and turn it clockwise until the tip of that lines up with that. So then you're going to end up with a bicycle that's stitching down the mountain. Oops. It's pretty neat. So just kind of stitching down, which would give you this effect. So it's just something neat. And the more you play with the stitches, the more you can kind of do different things. But this would be great for like a little, like sashing in a little boy's quilt, or any quilt that is outdoorsy or has bikes on it. So really neat. So you can use this to quilt your quilting, your quilts. You can use this to quilt your quilts, or any other function that you want. But it's just showing that how you can incorporate things from the sewing side, and when you go into Stitch Designer, it brings and carries those functions over. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed this part 4, I do believe, of the Bernina Stitch Designer, which is available on the Bernina 790 and 880. All right, happy sewing.